If you're watching my channel, chances are you love building your own computer. But sometimes, and for certain people, there's a good reason to buy a pre-built computer. So let's compare them and let's see if that reason is ever right for you. So let's talk about it. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. Thank you for joining me for another video. If you like my content, remember to subscribe, smash that like button, leave a comment below. Would you ever consider buying a pre-built, or do you always build your own computer? So if you guys have been following the channel, you see that I love building custom computers, everywhere from water cooling to even regular air-cooled computers.
Every day, every night, every moment with you. I'm walking on air, and every day, every way, I feel I can't lose. I wanna shout it out, ain't no limit.
But something you guys may not know is that I also really enjoy a certain pre-built when the time is right, especially when I first started building computers. That's really how I learned. For example, the way that I started building computers was with actually a pre-built computer, because anytime we want to strive to do something that's really cool, like doing your own build, you kind of have to learn from somewhere. I mean, it's almost like, Mozart had to learn from Haydn in order to get better. So it's the same thing with building computers. You have to sort of look at an example that you admire and learn what you can from that, and from then you can, go on your own in terms of creativity.
I've been waiting all my life for someone like you, like you. I would watch the days go by.
Pretty soon I'm also going to post a video on one of my first gaming computers that I got, and I didn't build it myself because it was 15 years ago, and it was right around the time I really started getting into custom computers, and this was sort of the start of it all. But for today, let's talk about building your own computer versus a pre-built computer. I'm going to give you a few reasons for each why you should do a pre-built or why you should build your own computer. So the first reason that we're going to talk about is one of the biggest ones that people really tend to cling to, and that's going to be on price. Now, generally, it's pretty much accepted that if you build your own computer, for the most part, you're going to be able to do it cheaper. Now, there are a couple of pluses and minuses to this. Of course, you can save some money building it yourself. Sometimes you can save a lot of money, especially depending on how you source the parts. I mean, remember, you're not limited to just buying brand new computer parts. You can go in the used market and get different components, as well as have a bigger variety for whatever computer you're building, while a pre-built is going to have certain specifications that are set in stone. Even if you can choose different processors, generally most manufacturers may only give you an option of a few different motherboards or different types of RAM, while if you build yourself, it's literally wide open. Now, the markup for buying a pre-built isn't as much as you would think, but it could be a couple of $100s depending on the price of the actual computer. Like the $3,000 computer is going to have, more of a markup than, say, like an $800 computer. And a lot of times these manufacturers do get parts for cheaper, and they pass that along. And of course, they have to cover warranties and cover their labor. So it's only fair that they're going to be priced a little bit more than if you did it yourself. So yes, you can build a cheaper computer by doing it yourself. When you build your own computer, you have to also accept the fact that you're also going to be your own tech support, and that you're doing it because you're sort of an enthusiast, not only because you want to save a buck, but because you're going to be excited about handling all of the issues that may pop up. And depending on the computer you build, most of the time you will have issues you're going to have to diagnose yourself. The benefit to buying a pre-built for somebody who has no idea what they're doing and they don't want to get involved is that if they have a problem, they can generally call that company's tech support and have that sort of sorted. And of course, if you're somebody who likes tinkering with your own things, you may not want to do a pre-built because of that reason. You'll be able to figure it out. I know that when I got my pre-built, for as much as I liked it, I'm already tinkering with it. I'm opening it up and changing different things, and I basically treat it like if I built it myself after a few weeks. So I know I'm the type of person that I always like building my own because I like tinkering. I like the challenge of different problems that pop up. But some people just want a fluid, gaming experience or work experience on their rig, and they don't really want to deal with that. So if you're that type of person, right off the bat, just buy a pre-built. You're going to pay a little more, but you're also generally going to get a bit more of a peace of mind from a company that does a pre-built. But if you think you may want to tinker with it, or if you're open to solving your own problems, then of course you can go and you build your own route, because I think it's going to be a lot more enjoyable. So now let's get to the second reason. In terms of enjoyment, there's no doubt that building your own computer, while sometimes, especially for a new user, may be a little bit frustrating when you find it hard to put parts together or you don't know exactly what you're doing. As you figure it out, as you put it together, as you first turn the computer on, there's no better feeling than seeing BIOS boot up after you spent hours building a computer or even weeks researching and buying parts. So it's a lot of work, but it's tremendously satisfying. Like deep down, it really feels good when you build your own computer and it's working well. And then you have the power to upgrade it a lot easier. Let's say if you want to get different RAM, or you want to upgrade your graphics card in the future. If you built your own computer, chances are you're already going to have that confidence to go back in there and really mess with it. If you got a pre-built, you may be scared to even open the case. So that's one of the benefits. Now, if you get a pre-built computer, especially if it's a nice one from a boutique builder like Maingear or Falcon Northwest or any of those, of course, you're still going to get a lot of joy and pleasure from the machine. It's just going to be a little bit different than if you build it yourself. Now, a lot of people who are perfectionists, and sometimes I can understand that because I tend to be that way too, you may feel better with a pre-built because if somebody does it perfectly and they do a really nice job of it, you may not even want to touch it. While if you're a perfectionist and a tinkerer at the same time, it gets a little bit frustrating because while you appreciate something that's really well made, you want to get in there and learn it yourself, and you end up disrupting the perfection that it was and trying to recreate it. So it does become a whole cycle as well. So yeah, if you get a really cool gaming computer, everybody would be psyched. But you are going to miss out a little bit on somebody who built their own computer and they got that personal satisfaction of putting it together. And that satisfaction can be repeated many times, not only with building more computers over time, it's a skill you really build up, but with being able to upgrade your computer easily without fear of voiding warranties and opening up your system. You do gain a tremendous amount of knowledge as well as your own practical relationship with the computer, which if you really enjoy it, it's great. Now, if you just want something, like I said before, if you just want something to turn on and play your games and you never want to open it up or upgrade it until years and years down the road, then, it may not be for you. But I think most people will definitely get that great satisfaction from working on your own computer. Another great reason that maybe you might want to build your own instead of a pre-built is that you definitely will have more of a community when you build your own. I mean, everything from researching motherboards or processors, you can be more excited about little individual items coming out because you may be able to upgrade themselves. While if you buy a pre-built, chances are you're going to sort of be stuck with whatever motherboard it came with and processor, and you may not want to upgrade it yourself because you may void whatever warranties there. So it will limit you a little bit. So I guess a lot of it comes down to building your own. There's going to be more work, more research, but in general, it pays off because you gain a lot more knowledge. If you're that type of person who wants to tinker and learn about your own computer, I mean, it's definitely the way to go. Another positive reason for building your own computer is that if you see the trend here is that you can get deeper and deeper in the process of building. So let's say your first computer, you're using an air cooler or even the stock cooler, then eventually you can maybe upgrade that to an AIO. Eventually, you may upgrade that to custom water cooling, maybe just on your CPU. Then you're like, okay, I want to do my GPU next, and you do that. I mean, that's pretty much how I did it. I just started doing little by little. I never just built a whole water cooling system from the get-go. I would first water cool my CPU, maybe soft tube, then I would do hard tube, then I would go to the GPU and CPU, then at one point you do SLI, you do dual loops. You start getting more and more complex as you get more and more sort of intimate with your computer. So as you get more secure in your knowledge and your everyday skills that you're developing by building your computer. So this is a tremendous benefit, because instead of just saying, I built this computer and it's over, and you have to wait for years to buy a different one like you would with a pre-built for whenever new technology comes out, building your computer can be an ongoing organic process. Even while you finish the build you may be happy with 1 week, the following week maybe upgrade the RAM. You can always sell your RAM on the used market, buy a faster RAM or RGB RAM or whatever. So you're always open to organically change it over time, which is not only going to be pleasing to you in terms of increasing your skill, but it also is going to improve the performance over time. Then of course, some benefits of having a pre-built. Generally, you just order it and it shows up at your door, or you pick it up in a store like Micro Center or wherever you may shop, and it's pretty much ready to go. Usually they're going to have been tested, especially if you buy something from like a boutique vendor like Mengear or Falcon Northwest. They're generally built to very high specifications, as high if not higher than like an enthusiast would build it, especially their water cooling systems. So they run those systems to test. They really stand behind the product. So you can get something, and if you don't want to tinker with it, that's probably a really good way to go if it fits in your budget. Yeah, you're going to be paying a little bit more than if you build it yourself, but you're also getting plenty of benefits, primarily being the warranty and support, and just not having sort of the hassle of building things yourself. Because like I said, the more complicated a system that you build, it can get a little bit tricky. You can make certain mistakes in building. It doesn't always go smoothly. The plus side is that you learn from those mistakes and you keep building your computers. But for somebody who doesn't want to deal with that, from a pre-built manufacturer, you're going to get sort of that set it and done type of mindset, which could be really beneficial if you have other hobbies or other things that you want to focus on and not necessarily building computers. So that's the only case I would say that that's really going to be better. And not every pre-built computer has to just be necessarily like a generic computer with bad parts. A lot of these nowadays, especially from those that I mentioned like Mengear and Falcon Northwest, they're built with the same parts that we would build as enthusiasts, and often to the same or higher degree of sort of workmanship. And they do really awesome cooling systems and cabling. So it's pre-built doesn't necessarily mean bad or overpriced. It just means that you're going to get something that's somebody else's vision and something you may not want to tinker with because of many factors. While if you build your own, it's going to be your own creative vision, as well as giving you the ability and the vision to do whatever you want with it. So to sum it up, while I love building my own computers and generally that's what I do, and I think everybody should do it for the experience, I can understand why some people may just want a pre-built and just want something they don't have to worry about. Even I've done that before in the past too, and sometimes it feels nice to not only learn from somebody who builds it, but also just have something that works and not have to worry about tinkering with it. Even though I can't keep it up for too long, I eventually tinker with it. It is a nice feeling, and I can imagine somebody who just wants to set it and forget it, that they would be pretty pleased with that. And of course, when you're doing this, you always have to sort of analyze your budget and the hardware that you want. A pre-built may not be able to fit into that budget exactly if it's really tight, and they may not have the hardware configuration that you want. So you're definitely going to be more flexible with, building it yourself. And remember, building it yourself doesn't necessarily mean you're out there without any help at all. There are the many different forums and on Reddit, you can ask people for advice. And I'm sure you could even get a friend that's built a computer to help you through and ask questions. I know people always send me messages on my Instagram and even on YouTube about what they're building. And if something goes wrong, I'm always more than happy to help answer any questions as well. So you always have a lot of resources when you're building your computer, and the more you do it, the less questions you'll have and things will just make sense. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you like my content. Smash that like button. Remember to leave a comment below. I want to know if you've bought a pre-built or if you'd like building your own computer. And I'll see you guys on the next video.